You are welcome to today's deep news analysis. This is not noise. This is power, pride, and pressure. Nigeria just took a rare step. An official apology. A minister sent out. And a message that shook West Africa. Before we go deeper, please subscribe to this channel and turn on your notification bell so you don't miss any important updates right here on Emmy Junior Realistic. Stay with me. This story is calm on the surface, but heavy inside. Let's go straight to it. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu did something Nigeria rarely does in regional politics. He did not argue. He did not deny. He did not delay. He sent Nigeria's Minister of Foreign Affairs, Yusuf Tuggar, alongside other top government delegates, directly to Burkina Faso. The mission was clear from the start. It was not tourism. It was not routine diplomacy. It was an apology, and it was also a serious talk with Burkina Faso's leader, Captain Ibrahim Traoré. This matters because apologies between nations are not small things. Countries do not apologize easily, especially big countries to smaller ones. Pride often stands in the way. Power often blocks honesty. But this time, Nigeria chose a different path. The issue began when a Nigerian Air Force C-130 aircraft entered Burkinabè airspace without proper clearance. This was not a minor oversight. Airspace is sacred to any nation. It represents sovereignty, control, and security. Burkina Faso is currently battling terrorism and instability. In such a tense environment, any foreign military aircraft entering without approval raises fear and suspicion. The aircraft was linked to 11 Nigerian soldiers. That fact alone raised the stakes. Burkina Faso could have reacted harshly. They could have escalated the issue. They could have turned it into a public crisis. Instead, they waited. And Nigeria responded. Minister Yusuf Tuggar stood before Burkinabè authorities and apologized officially on behalf of the Nigerian government. Not a vague statement. Not a half apology. A clear admission that Nigeria was wrong to violate Burkina Faso's airspace. This was done face to face, not through press releases or distant statements. That alone changed the tone of the situation. But the visit was not only about saying sorry. It was also about rebuilding trust. That is why the Nigerian delegation met directly with President Ibrahim Traoré. This was a high-level discussion, not a symbolic handshake. Both sides understood the weight of the moment. During the talks, Minister Tuggar went further than many expected. He praised Ibrahim Traoré openly. He acknowledged his firmness. He recognized his resolve in dealing with terrorism. He spoke of Burkina Faso's struggle against armed groups and the foreign interests many Africans believe continue to fuel instability in the region. This praise was not accidental. It was deliberate. For years, leaders like Traoré have positioned themselves as symbols of African self-determination. They speak against foreign dominance. They reject old power structures. They push for security solutions that come from within Africa, not outside it. When Nigeria publicly acknowledged this stance, it sent a strong signal across West Africa. It showed that Nigeria was listening. It also showed that Nigeria was not approaching Burkina Faso as a superior power, but as a partner seeking understanding. This is important because Burkina Faso is part of the AES alliance, alongside Mali and Niger. Relations between Nigeria and this bloc have been tense in recent times, especially after political changes and military takeovers in the region. By choosing apology over pressure, Nigeria lowered the temperature. The meeting also served another purpose. It helped prevent misinterpretation. In times of conflict, silence creates rumors. A single military incident can be twisted into a false narrative of aggression. By addressing the issue directly and respectfully, Nigeria blocked any chance of the situation being used to justify hostility or fear. This approach reflects a careful calculation by Tinubu's government. Nigeria is dealing with its own security challenges at home. It cannot afford new enemies in the region. It cannot afford misunderstandings that may affect trade, intelligence sharing, or border stability. Peaceful neighbors matter. The apology also restored Nigeria's image as a responsible regional leader. Leadership is not only about strength. It is also about restraint. Admitting a mistake does not weaken a country. Sometimes, it strengthens its moral authority. The talks in Burkina Faso were calm but serious. Both sides spoke frankly. There was no shouting. No threats. Just reality. Burkina Faso made it clear that its sovereignty must be respected. Nigeria made it clear that the violation was not intentional and would not happen again. By the end of the meeting, the crisis had shifted into cooperation. This part is important because it sets the foundation for everything that follows. Without this apology, there would be no trust. Without trust, there would be no deeper discussions. And without deeper discussions, nothing meaningful could move forward. What started as a military error turned into a diplomatic reset. And in West African politics today, that is no small achievement. Now listen closely. Ibrahim Traoré is not a loud man, but his presence carries weight across West Africa. Since taking power, he has positioned himself as a symbol of resistance, not only against armed groups inside Burkina Faso, but also against external influence that many Africans believe has failed the region for decades. His message is simple and firm: security, dignity, and control must return to African hands. This is why Nigeria's posture during the visit mattered so much. When Minister Yusuf Tuggar openly praised Traoré's determination and resilience, it was not just personal respect. It was political recognition. Nigeria was acknowledging a new reality in West Africa, where younger leaders are challenging old alliances and demanding new terms of engagement. For years, Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger have moved closer together under the AES alliance. Their leaders share similar views on sovereignty, security, and foreign involvement. This shift has created tension with neighboring countries, especially those seen as aligned with Western interests. Nigeria, as a major regional power, has often been placed in the middle of this divide. The praise directed at Traoré sent a clear message to the AES bloc: Nigeria is not coming as an enemy. Nigeria is not coming to lecture. Nigeria is coming to talk. This is important because Traoré's influence goes beyond his borders. His words shape public opinion across the Sahel. Many young Africans see him as bold and uncompromising. Others see him as risky and defiant. But no one sees him as irrelevant. When Nigeria chose respect over confrontation, it spoke directly to this audience. Power in Africa is changing form. It is no longer only about economic size or military strength. It is about narrative. It is about who appears firm, honest, and unafraid. Traoré understands this. That is why his government reacts strongly to anything that looks like disrespect or violation of sovereignty, including airspace breaches. The talks between Nigeria and Burkina Faso reflected this reality. They were not rushed. They were not shallow. They covered security cooperation, regional stability, and mutual respect. Both sides understood that the Sahel is fragile, and that careless actions can push it closer to chaos. Nigeria's decision to apologize also helped prevent the incident from being framed as intentional aggression. In the current climate, even small military movements can be misread as preparation for conflict. This visit helped calm nerves and close the door to dangerous assumptions. But there was another layer to the discussions, one that was not written in official communiques. It was about alignment. Where does Nigeria stand in the new West African order? Is it willing to adapt, or will it cling to old roles? By engaging Traoré directly and acknowledging his struggle against terrorism, Nigeria appeared willing to adjust. This does not mean agreement on everything. It means recognition. And recognition is the first step to influence. Traoré's government wants respect, not pity. It wants cooperation, not control. Nigeria's approach during the visit suggested an understanding of this mindset. That understanding creates space for dialogue, even when opinions differ sharply. This moment also highlighted a deeper truth. Military power alone cannot solve the region's problems. Terrorism thrives on broken trust, weak states, and divided neighbors. When countries talk openly and correct mistakes early, they deny extremists the chaos they feed on. The meeting did not erase all tension between Nigeria and the AES states, but it shifted the direction. From suspicion to cautious engagement. From silence to conversation. In West African politics, direction matters more than speed. What Nigeria did in Burkina Faso was not dramatic. It was deliberate. And sometimes, deliberate moves shape the future more than loud ones. This phase of the story shows a region in transition. Old habits are being questioned. New voices are rising. And major players like Nigeria must decide whether to resist the change or help shape it. The choice Nigeria made in this moment suggests it understands what is at stake. Here is where everything comes together. After the apology was delivered and the tone of the talk softened, attention shifted to outcomes. Not promises, not press statements, but real results. One of the most important outcomes was the release of the 11 Nigerian soldiers. Burkina Faso returned them to Nigerian authorities, along with the C-130 aircraft involved in the airspace violation. This single act confirmed that the apology was accepted and that dialogue had replaced tension. The release was not automatic. It came after trust was rebuilt. It came after both sides chose calm over pride. In diplomacy, outcomes like this do not happen by chance. They happen when leaders decide that stability matters more than ego. For Nigeria, the return of the soldiers carried weight beyond the military. It showed the public that the government could protect its own, even in delicate situations. It also showed that mistakes, when addressed honestly, can be resolved without force. This matters in a region where misunderstandings often spiral into long disputes. But the talks did not stop at soldiers and aircraft. Once the immediate crisis was settled, deeper issues entered the room. This is where diplomacy becomes complex. This is where law, politics, and regional influence collide. The name Nnamdi Kanu surfaced within the broader context of regional relations. Not as a threat, not as a command, but as part of a larger conversation about justice, peace, and stability. In West Africa, leaders often raise issues that affect their people emotionally, even when those issues fall within another country's legal system. Kanu is facing life imprisonment. He was sentenced last month and transferred to Sokoto prison. His legal team has indicated that an appeal will be pursued. These facts are public. But beyond the courtroom, the case carries political and regional implications. For some leaders, it represents grievances that stretch beyond borders. The possibility of Kanu's situation being discussed in diplomatic circles does not mean decisions are being dictated from outside Nigeria. It means that Nigeria is being asked to listen. Listening does not erase the rule of law. It tests its flexibility. This is the balance Nigeria now faces. On one side is the independence of its judiciary. On the other is the reality of regional politics, where unresolved internal issues can affect external relationships. Strong nations manage both without collapsing either. The meeting in Burkina Faso placed Nigeria in that position. By restoring relations and recovering its soldiers, Nigeria gained leverage. It is easier to defend your legal processes when your neighbors respect you. It is harder to do so when relations are broken. This is why the apology mattered so much. It created space. Space for honest conversation. Space for Nigeria to explain its position without shouting. Space to disagree without hostility. From a realistic perspective, no serious agreement can force Nigeria to release or detain anyone. That power remains with Nigerian institutions. But diplomacy often works through influence, not orders. Through persuasion, not pressure. What makes this moment sensitive is timing. Nigeria is already dealing with economic strain, security challenges, and political division at home. Any decision that touches emotional nerves must be handled carefully. Rushed actions could deepen internal tension. Total silence could create external misunderstanding. This is why the government's approach appears measured. Engage regionally, stay firm legally, and avoid public escalation. Quiet diplomacy allows room for solutions that public debates often destroy. The release of the soldiers also sends a warning. It shows how quickly regional matters can turn serious. One aircraft. One error. 11 men detained. It reminds Nigeria that its actions are watched closely, especially by countries redefining their place in Africa. For Burkina Faso, the outcome reinforced its image of strength. It showed that sovereignty is defended, but also that forgiveness is possible when respect is shown. For Nigeria, it reinforced the value of restraint and dialogue. What happens next will not be loud. It will not be announced in dramatic speeches. It will unfold through court processes, back-channel talks, and strategic decisions made away from cameras. This is how real diplomacy works. The bigger picture is clear. West Africa is entering a phase where old habits no longer work. Power is becoming more psychological than physical. Respect is becoming as important as force. Nigeria's challenge now is to maintain its leadership without appearing overbearing, to protect its laws without isolating itself, to engage new regional voices without losing its own balance. The Burkina Faso episode will be remembered not for the airspace violation, but for how it was resolved. Calmly, directly, with results. And that may be the most important lesson in this entire story.